make or break roster spots, one preseason game left, no practices. It all comes down to this. Atlanta, 7:30, Thursday night. Steelers, Falcons. Big one in the Dome. Nobody cares about the Dome. You got anybody who's a make or break roster, I guess, bubble guy right now heading into this last game? It feels weird because this 53-man roster seems almost set in stone, but at the same time, like set in stone with like multiple guys that you're just like, well, if they keep him over him, it doesn't change. It's still really like that's a starter as well. You know, it feels like there's a couple of those guys. You got to make or break roster guy.
Yeah, I'm going to zig a little bit. We've talked about some of these bigger position battles, so I'm going to go a little bit of a sleeper, a guy who would need a real big day, but I still think has an outside chance of
All right.
maybe making that roster, and that's Kenny Robinson.
I
A
knew you
guy
were going to say Kenny Robinson.
Yeah, you knew I was gonna say Kenny Robinson because I think he's a good player. I know it hasn't been the best couple weeks for him, and he maybe needed some bigger plays in that Buffalo game to really cement his spot, or to even give himself much better than a puncher's chance. But I don't know. Like we said, I'm not completely sold on Miles Killebrew. I'm not completely sold that his special teams ability is absolutely necessary. I think
Yeah.
Kenny Robinson still has a decent chance. Trying to be different, trying to give us something else to look at besides the positions we've already talked about. But yeah, some big plays from Kenny. And I think this secondary is thin enough that he could find his way onto the roster if he is that good of if he plays that well I think defense is really where he's gonna. I think special teams is kind of they know what they know about him, but I still think there's some meat on that bone as far as defense that he could impress with, and that he could show that he's a valuable member of an NFL team.
Yeah, Kenny's a good one. I knew you were going to say Kenny. I do think that he's got a puncher's chance. I don't think he's out of the running right now. I think it's tough just because I wanted to see. I think just like you said, like Miles' tip on that punt did a lot, and
Yeah,
Kenny's got, just because Kenny hasn't had a play. You know what I mean? Kenny hasn't had a preseason play yet. He's got to have a preseason play. If he does have one, I think there's a real I think things change, and I think that a good preseason finale. I mean, this is a terrible example, but that's what got Christian Kuntz the job over whatever his name was, Cam Canada. Thank you. As a long snapper, was that preseason finale, and I think that could happen with the safety position. Mine is a guy that we've talked about way too much on this show today, Gunnar Olszewski. I think Gunnar needs a big game. I think that he's had a great training camp. I think that he's had a great preseason. He's looked really good, but I am not sold that he has more value than Miles Boykins or Des Fitzpatrick. I'm just not sold on it. I think that the Steelers have two slot guys, and it's really tough to make a case that you need a third, especially if you only have two. Like, you're going to keep two outside guys and then Allen Robinson, I guess, and then have three inside guys. I think that makes things challenging. I think if he comes out swinging, has a good game, it's over, locked it in. But I think if he does nothing, especially if he plays with the first team a lot and does nothing, I'm looking at Gunnar and saying, he might be the guy that they try to sneak through waivers, and that might not work out in the Steelers' favor.
Yeah, I think Gunnar's a good one too. We talked about him a lot. But yeah, I think he needs some bigger plays. I think you're right. This is a guy who, like you said, had a good training camp, but is fighting an uphill battle. Just given the numbers, the math is not in his favor. But I still he is just as likely as anyone to make this roster. Like I said, I'm not sold on Miles Boykins. So he did have, I think, like 4 catches or whatever in the Buffalo game.
In the Buffalo game, Gunnar did. He did, but Gunnar looked good. He's looked good all preseason.
Oh,
I
just
think he's got to fight every game. Cannot. If it slows down, I think it's like that final impression. I think is so important.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he's got to almost play perfectly in order to make this roster, which is tough for him.
Just to guarantee it. I agree with you. I think he's ahead of the battle, but I think that battle's so tight, I think that's so tight. What about, I think Zach Gentry's another one. That's, I think he's on the outside looking in right now, but.
Is there something you think Zach Gentry, because I just can't think of what Zach Gentry can do that, if he could get.
He's got to do it all.
if he could get 5 years younger, I don't know, like that might help him. But like that's
It's
that's
true.
and that was harsh. But like
It's true.
I feel like they're in on Darnell. Like that's no comment on Zach as a player. Like I said, he's going to get picked up if he gets cut. But I just don't think there's anything he can do in this game that will make you think, oh no, yeah, like we need 4 tight ends, especially when we have position battles when we're coming down to the wire at 4 different positions. You know?
No, I agree. I think that it's got to be a perfect game. I don't think it's possible, but I think that, like, you know what I mean? Zach somehow, like,
Yeah.
he's never done this in his life, but catches like 3 touchdowns and has just one ridiculous game. And,
Yeah.
you know, that's all it would take. All right. With that, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Find us anywhere you get your podcast. Check out all of our coverage. I almost said all our videos, all of our coverage at allsteelers.com, and enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg